Ooh, those special effects.
Okay, as we were saying, we were watching the X Files from season one, episode one. Um,
The pilot. I forget
the
the name of it.
pilot. Um, we want to talk about it because it's a show that like brought up our supernatural interests growing up. At least for me, a little bit for her. She's younger.
Yes. I was born in '89, so.
but um, but we are familiar with it, so we want to talk about it just because of how we're discussing how important the supernatural is
Yes.
in storytelling.
Yeah. And how, I mean, you can't, at least from our generations, you can't possibly discuss Supernatural and not talk about X Files.
And not talking about fucking X Files.
Like, it's iconic in so many ways.
Okay, so for those who don't know, and like basically what's happening, Dana Scully, that I think it's 25 at this point in her life, has been asked to come for an assignment with the FBI.
So
And
she's 25.
she's 25. Like the actress is 25. I'm not sure how old Dana is supposed to be,
But the actress is 25.
but the actress is 25 and she looks super young. And I think Mulder, David Duchovny, was like 32, 30, between 33 and 34. I don't remember exactly, but like they were like a little bit different in age.
Agent Scully, thank you for coming on such short notice. Please. We see you've been with us just over 2 years. Yes, sir. You
She's been with the
chose not to practice.
Bureau
But
for
you come to work for
2 years.
me.
Can you imagine having like this super like big assignment 2 years into your career?
I was just like,
like you have to show out. like
yeah.
Are you
She wants to.
with an agent named Fox Mulder?
Fox Mulder, Spooky Mulder.
How so?
By reputation. He's an Oxford-educated psychologist who wrote a monograph on serial killers and the occult that helped catch Monty Props in 1988.
So you can see how like
Widely thought of as the best
they were actually very like apart on like their
nickname at the academy.
Upbringings, or they're like.
Spooky Mulder. No, like how
Tell you is that Agent Mulder has developed a consumer
ahead of his career he was compared to her.
Oh.
So it was like like
so-called X-Files.
She's like relatively newer.
yeah, like to the point where she like has studied some of his cases.
Yeah.
You know.
Reports on your activities along with your observations on the
So in here is where like let me pause it so we can discuss. So this is kind of like what the premise of the show is. So Dana Scully, like who's kind of like a newbie in the bureau, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, gets recruited for this show gets recruited for this assignment, basically babysitting Mulder.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like basically that's what they're asking her, but like they're also like putting her like they're setting her up for failure in this assignment because people that have worked in the past with Mulder can really like stand him.
Yeah.
Like they can't really get past his spookiness.
His eccentricities.
Yes.
Like that to them, he's just too like.
He's
off
a
the
joke. He's a
Yeah.
joke, and the X Files are a joke. Like people, they dismiss it as like,
They don't-
why are you looking into these stupid cases that are obviously crazy people?
Yeah.
You know, like
They don't take any of it seriously.
yeah,
And so this is kind of like in its own way communicating what they're already doing with her. Like she wants to prove herself, and they just want someone to babysit him. So they're like, it can be you. You know.
yeah, and also like they can to a certain degree like setting him up for failure as well. You know.
Yeah, because she's so much newer in her
Yeah.
career. Yeah.
So
They don't expect
they
this
don't
to be
ex-
fruitful.
Yeah, they don't expect this to like last.
Yeah.
They expect this to fail, and like in this way it fails and defund or close out the X-Files. You know, like why are we wasting money on this? Which, if you think about it, how many things is the government defunding? You know,
Yeah. That's true.
you're defunding essential shit like aliens.
Essential.
Essential
aliens.
knowledge.
Yeah.
No, but like it is a point that this kind of like show tries to make. It's like you really have to fucking demand your fucking government to be transparent with you. You know, like it, I've been watching this show a lot. I'm like on season 4, episode 7. I had already like previously rewatched it back in like 2016 because I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, you know what? I remember really loving that show when I was little. That
It's a different experience than
yeah,
watching it older.
when you watch it as an adult, you realize a lot of things about like
The nuances, you pick up on them.
the fucking like situation that they put her in. You know, like if I had been 25 and that had been my assignment, oh my god, like I don't know if I would have been successful.
Yeah, that's a lot to put on a 25-year-old, like, in any... It's a big undertaking, basically.
Yeah.
And then, like, what's implied there is they're kind of trying to, like, walk her into a trap in many ways. And they clearly underestimate her, so...
Yeah, and I think that's that kind of like already sets up like the show for something different when they actually go ahead and like meet.
Yeah.
You know? So, lo voy a seguir poniendo para que veamos what happens.
Understand that you want me to debunk the X-Files project, sir?
Like there are,
Miss Scully, we trust you'll make the proper scientific analysis. You'll want to
and that she does.
We look forward to seeing your reports.
And you know what? I was like so curious about like what sign is Dana Scully.
Of course. What time?
She's a Pisces, which is very interesting to me.
A Pisces. And what is he?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because I always want to know if they're pairing and working together. I want to know, like, his I want to believe poster. Oh my god.
I want that poster. I always wanted that poster.
I want to believe is something
If somebody
that
wants to give me this poster, please do so.
that, like, this is how iconic the show is, though. Like, growing up, I knew that I Want to Believe was connected to X-Files before I even watched X-Files.
Yes, let me see. Not played by David Duchovny and the TV show. It says date of birth October 13, 1961, but I don't know if that's like
That's the character or him?
yes.
The character?
I
Isn't
think
that
so.
Scorpio?
October 31st is a Scorpio, yeah.
Did you bother to read it?
Let me check.
Or Sagittarius. No, yeah, a Scorpio because Sagittarius doesn't start till November.
Yeah.
So that's a Scorpio.
That makes so much
That's
sense.
two water signs.
But it makes so much sense that that he's a Scorpio. Scorpios trust nothing. They're suspicious of everything.
Everything's suspicious.
I'm-
Everything is sus.
Everything is sus.
Okay, so like now they put them together and then
Wait
she's
a
like,
minute. I've seen these marks.
and this is the thing, like she takes her job so seriously. There's even a meme. I'm gonna try to find it and like post it on our socials. But there's this meme where it's just like her, and it's like doesn't believe in aliens, still does her fucking job. Because she still does her fucking job, you
Yeah.
know? Like she
doesn't believe, but she still follows the
she
trails.
shows up, and that's what makes this like I feel like sometimes this show has everything. Like it just it does have the supernatural aspect that we want to kind of like discuss more of.
but
But
not
it's
treated-
also like an actual like cop show, you know, like an actual like investigative.
they treat it
show.
seriously. They don't. It's not treated like novelty. You know, it's treated like This is a real cop show. It's just that we investigate aliens.
Yes, and I feel like Scully tries like actually brings that to the table a lot. You
Yeah.
know, she brings that like analytical thinking, and he brings more of the magical thinking.
Oh, you just know if it was just up to him, he would be running around like
Yeah.
Men in Black.
And I feel like this is something that like makes of a really good supernatural show. It's something that
balanced.
can balance like sci-fi, you know, like a sci-fi show has to have that scientific behind it.
Psi and Phi.
Phi.
Not just the Phi, but also the Psi.
Or not too much of the sci, you know, like,
An equal amounts of Psi and Phi.
and like I right now like I said, I rewatched it a while back, but I like I'm rewatching it now in preparation of this recording. No es cierto, I was watching it before. And then that's when we decided we need to record this because I have hot takes. I think that to me is such a very interesting like storytelling, like how do you mix that scientific and magical, and like this show does it so beautifully
In a grounded way.
in a grounded way, and in like an enjoyable, interesting, engaging way. And I think that this show does that very well.
It like touches on subjects that could seem very like skeptically because of the paranormal aspects of it. But
Yes.
it does it in a way that's believable, and I
Yes.
don't know how to like.
And I think because they also like bring in a lot of like that social aspect of why is our fucking government lying to us, you know?
Yes.
Because they interject a lot of that. It's also a political show, so this show has like literally everything.
Yeah. It really does. It's got like the layers. You look at the layers and the nuances, and it's commenting on several things. At
Yeah,
the same time.
yeah.
One of those being the non-binary aspect of this.
Yes.
Without actually telling you, you know, like it's not as. I would kind of venture to say it's a little bit there, even in the pilot, mainly because of the colors.
Yeah.
The colors of like their coats and stuff like that.
Yeah,
match.
and like if you watch the pilot, you can like it looks very like young, very like
the way she's dressed,
like
under the coat is
yeah,
very,
like I would feel like even the people who were creating this character were writing as like doe-eyed,
baby doll.
yeah, type of like, but
Wide-eyed and ready
Yes.
to like make an impression on this. Like,
very eager to
yeah.
do good at work.
Yeah.
And she doesn't give you none of that. She's like, I think she played this character as a fuck you, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, it's giving subtle air of authority. Like,
Yeah, it's more of like no, like let me debunk you because that's my fucking job. And like
yeah.
I'm gonna do my job to prove this or disprove this. Like actually do my job.
Even though she doesn't necessarily believe, she still shows up. And she
No,
still
but I
gives
think that
her-
she believes she believes that there's actually an explanation for it.
Yes.
That it can't be that easy.
Oh, I see.
You know?
It's like it's not just as easy as blaming it on aliens. Something went on here.
Yes, and I think that that's what he needed to actually
Be more effective.
be
more
more effective
effective.
in his investigation of these things.
Yeah. Because, I mean, she finds him in a basement. And I'm just like, what were you doing before she showed up? Because I ain't been in that basement since then.
Now they remain in the basement for like the longevity of the show, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, like it's a show that has like a lot of different layers. One of the things that we wanted to kind of like discuss also is, the gender dynamics of the show.
Yes.
Like, see, like in that one, you can see how he is the one like
Leading.
yeah.
Yeah, but like it's crazy
she's
how
walking behind him.
as the season progresses, that totally changes.
Yeah, and that, like, in an interview that I was watching with Gillian Anderson, she actually brings this up. The way that they were written in these scenes were in for me to walk behind him. But like as the character kind of progressed, and it progressed pretty quickly, I think like in this very same season, you can see how like
I see it. I see it from episode 8, I believe we were watching before, to like the pilot.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
she leads the investigations.
they balance themselves. Like it comes to like this beautiful balance in where
They're both equally engaging with whoever they're interviewing.
and whatever energy is needed at that moment. It's
They
like,
just-
I'll show up for you right now, and it's like, I know you don't have this, I'll bring it, and like, I know you don't have this, I'll bring it.
They start learning how to like
balance each other
balance
out,
each other out. Yeah.
which is very like,
I mean, they balance each other out in the pretty androgynous way as well. They're both very pleasing to look at. But that's the thing, like
I think that that's something that a lot of like people sometimes don't like talk about. It's how these characters were written in a way that like they're very crushable. Like,
Yeah.
like you could have a crush on either of these characters.
Yes. Yeah.
And and I think that that really helped for a lot of youth to be interested in this show. I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
a lot of people, when I was watching this show my age, I was probably, I wish Paloma was here. Paloma, you remember? She we used to watch this show growing up. I think we were probably like 13, 14, like I don't know. We grew up watching this, and like I don't know, I feel like it was very nice to see characters that were actually somewhere outside the binary.
Yes. Yes. And as we were talking, like, it's also interesting that because you watched it during the time as it was like, you know, culturally more like speaking to the times.
Yeah.
So you're able to give that perspective that people would normally catch. Like when you said, oh, you know, like the style, the fashion. It was very common to be kind of androgynous.
Yeah.
It was like what was in. But at the same time, they weave in all of these subtle hints of like non-binary energy.
Yes. And I think that that's what made this show like very interesting, because they could have easily made her a guy, you
Yep.
know? And like really and that, I feel like that would have made that show very fucking boring.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. I see that. And like you said, like earlier, that she eventually brings big, like masculine energy, and he is the counter to that because he has a lot of like feminine energy. Like,
Yeah, like he's like the one that like leads with his emotions and leads with his very reactive and very like kind of how like a female character would be coded.
yeah.
Very likable, very flirtatious, very
Yeah.
like he is like
Charming.
yes, like muy coqueto, you know, like
Yeah,
very like
which is interesting to me because the guys do not describe him like that. The men
Yeah.
that are like telling her, oh, you know, he's this and that, and they call him this, and they call him spooky, and blah, or I don't know if she's the one that said it, but the way that they frame him is that he's a nightmare. And I'm like, if
And
that's
he's
your
a
nightmare,
sweetheart.
if that is your nightmare, I would love some of those nightmares, please. Mm-hmm. I want those nightmares.
look at that.
That is he's
And
a
then
Labrador.
and then
He's a Labrador, is what he is.
He's Labrador energy, totally.
Yes.
Yes. And then she is like this very collected, very methodical, very like, hey, let's think through this. Very like,
She's not even a dog, she's an owl.
she's like a very like, she's coded more with this like what most people consider, not most people, but like historically people would code as masculine. Um, and you can almost see it like in the pilot. Like if you are watching this and you just watch the pilot, you won't really see it because I feel like in this like in the pilot she's still very like infantilized in her styling.
It definitely
Like
changes.
why is she wearing that skirt?
That's why it's important. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like that, I don't think I see her in a skirt
Past this.
past the pilot. The pilot is not the best to watch for any like series, like long series, because it's not gonna. It will. The show will evolve and change from that, and I can tell you.
Hopefully, a good show would.
Yes.
And I feel like in this one, like you immediately see like you see like okay, those are fucking like production notes.
Yes. Someone got a note. Someone got a
Someone
note
had
for
notes.
sure.
Someone had notes, and you see it immediately, like on episode two. Episode two, like the styling on Scully is like very, very masculine.
Oh, they got notes.
Yeah,
Oh, they
and I
definitely got
think,
notes.
and I think that Gillian Anderson might have had a lot to do
with that.
it.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think those were actress.
I
notes.
think those were her notes. I like the behavior of how she moves within the space, and how she like she looks frightened here, and I don't think I seen her frightened like after that.
She looks apprehensive. She looks frightened. She's always carrying around that purse. I don't think I see a purse on her after this.
Oh, that's right.
Like
The purse.
You gotta have a purse, honey. Honey doll. You gotta have a purse.
Who was styling her on the pilot? I don't know, but whoever started styling her on the next one, and I think because she looks so young on the show, like she was 25.
They must have told them to age her up.
Yeah,
Or said
because they couldn't. Because this is a little bit condescending. Because I feel like they couldn't believe that somebody that looked that cute could have the weight that the character needed.
yeah.
Which is
you want her to be taken
Like,
seriously.
she cannot be cute then.
She cannot be. And it's so funny how they will ironically end up in the right space, but under wrong. Like,
They went all the way around and back into a good place.
yeah, like,
I'm not gonna do this.
yeah, like, no, we can't have her dressed like that. People need to take her seriously. So you want her non-binary coded.
Great. No. I want her as an adult woman. And you're like, okay.
Sure. That's how I'm like,
Like
That's
an
like the
old
way it's-
woman. Code her as an old woman.
code her as an office wear woman. Like, you mean not okay, whatever.
Anyways, we digress.
Yeah, we digress.
So, yeah, and like let me put the episode 2 because it's like in the first scene you're like, honey, you had notes.
yeah. Clearly, yeah, and you can see it like right away
So
as soon as they.
actually it's after the credits when we see her first. Okay, it got to a point where I already know exactly where to fucking stop.
You know what's funny about this?
The truth is out
the
there.
truth is out there. This is so iconic that like the younger generations think that song is a meme.
I know. I mean, it's been everything. It's been a ringtone. It's been alarm clocks. It's been there. She is like you see her and you immediately how they age her
my
up.
God!
Yes.
The hairstyle, the glasses.
Very
This
masculine.
woman is giving like I will definitely.
And you see, like he gets like like right next to her, and she doesn't flinch or anything. Like she feels so comfortable around him, like from the get go.
And that's the actor chemistry, which
Yeah.
we've already said can like people. If you're looking for romance, you'll see it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things that these two characters have is like this
They elevate each other.
this very incredible chemistry that like they're true friends. true
You
friends,
can
true
see that.
true collaborators. They're completely equal. Like I'd be curious to hear the conversations they might have behind the scenes to see how they play each other out, because it's very interesting to me how they keep that balance throughout like the entire show. Of course, there's like times where there's like where Mulder is acting like very bratty, very like, I want to do this because you don't know, and blah blah blah. Like he's acting very bratty in some episodes. In one of those episodes, he was drugged. Okay, so
Oh my
don't blame him.
goodness.
But like sometimes he acts very bratty, and she's always very firm, and like you're not gonna fucking disrespect me like that,
Yeah.
you know? Like there's been several times where she's like, I'm not here to do your fucking homework, type of energy,
Yeah. I love that.
But she's more of like, I'm here to do a job. We're here to partner up. That's como is very
Demanding of like not demanding but commanding of
very commanding. She's
her.
very commanding, and the fact that he doesn't like his masculinity is not threatened by that, and he can like get to that level with her immediately makes them both better.
Well, it's very neutralizing. Like the
Yeah.
way that they are with each other is very neutralizing.
Because he's like, I know who the big boss is. I want to step back.
Yeah, like
I think that that's very refreshing to see in a show, especially a show back in the 90s.
and it starts off that she's supposed to be investigating him, but then she just stays his partner, right?
She stays his partner because she's like, no, there is a case here. We need to investigate it because I haven't found the like I haven't found an explanation for it. ¿Sabes cómo?
Yeah.
So she stays because she knows there has to be a scientific explanation behind whatever craziness there is. A little bit further down on the show, she says something along the lines of the um along the lines that like nature is not like we can only understand nature as far as we can. Something along those lines. I want to find it.
Okay. You want to find it?
Let me find it. I know I should have written it down, but
okay.
something along the lines of like, we can only explain nature as far as we understand it. There's things that we don't understand yet, or things that we can possibly understand.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're not real.
Yeah.
Like she goes to like she really puts that scientific mind behind all of this because she's like
The curiosity.
yeah, and like you can see it in a lot of like a lot of the that scientific curiosity that she brings is like very is what makes a really good sci-fi show.
Yeah, and also what makes her perfect for investigating paranormal because she's not afraid of it because she's just so curious.
Yeah.
To see what is gonna come of it.
Yeah.
I just wonder if like the writers thought, oh, the only way that we could achieve this equity is by hanging this idea of like she could possibly defund you, which is just like
I think to a point I think it got to a point where like she was like more
I just think like
like
I love
no
what
like
it
no
became.
like let's actually investigate this, like these things that are
And
happening.
that's why I love what they did because I feel like the writers intended it for it to be that way, and then like I like to believe that it kind of got away from that intention of, well, the only way that he'll respect her because it's the 90s is if there's this threat for his job, and then it became more of like, no, actually she's a really good partner.
Yeah, and like they didn't write her they didn't write her as like the nagging
Exactly.
like the nagging partner, like they wrote her like
You can tell that they trust each other.
yeah.
You can tell that he doesn't think,
Oh,
she's gonna go
yeah,
and run.
and then you like
Their
see
body
it,
language, like
you see
reflects
it, you see it evolve as like the seasons go by. You see it evolve into like these kind of like very interesting, like trust, like it's like genuine love for each other,
Yeah.
you know, like it's I see you, you see me, like we really see each other for who we are, and we love that.
Yeah.
And i- it's very interesting to see, because I know like a lot of people want to put that like sexual tension between them because of that, because they can't explain love any other way.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's
So
a very binary way of looking at love.
Yeah.
Or yeah, looking at affection or a regard between a man and a woman.
yeah,
That's the only way it can exist, through romance.
yeah.
So people will like apply it to them.
And like now that I'm like rewatching it as an adult,
They just come across as really good adversaries. Like,
yes, like I don't see it as sexual tension. I see it more like this kind of like a sexual love, you know? Like people can't like I feel like people can't understand that type of affection, you know? That happens in like a lot of our relationships. And we sometimes kind of like forget about it,
yeah.
you know? Not forget about it, but like don't get exposed to it as much.
The asexual love?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see it totally here, even as like they begin to kind of like grow as characters and grow together.
And you're totally right. It is actually very like common for there to be relationships like that are like asexual love.
Yeah.
But you never see them portrayed at all in media. And if they are, because I feel like this is a really great example of that. But then people will apply their own, like, oh, these are two attractive people. They have to
like
they're
each
attractive
other.
because they have to, because they're attractive. Like,
Yeah. And
no, I
it's
see it.
like
Not necessarily though.
no, not necessarily, and not necessarily because you're the guy and I'm the girl, and I like, you know, like it's putting way too many labels into like a true partnership,
Yeah, and it's like an
a
element
true
that's
loving
not,
partnership.
like, there's nothing wrong with the romance as a genre, but it doesn't have to be the only like, or like it. I don't think it's necessarily a required like element to
Storyline.
a storyline,
Uh-huh.
exactly. And then like, because even that I think can be very isolating, because not everyone experiences love the same way. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily, it's not needed just because there's a man and a woman involved in the storyline.
Yeah.
So I think I think that's another reason why X-Files has had the staying power that it's had culturally, because sure, if you want to see romance in it, sure, it's there. But also,
But like, is it?
but is it like,
Yeah.
is it? And that's the thing. That's why I feel like it's such a queer show, because it is all encompassing in that way, because it doesn't paint like the experience of a man and a woman like partnering up in such like broad strokes. It's very like
Yeah, it's very weird because like
removing, I who would have known, removing sex from it just made it better. It makes
Yeah.
it more like,
the fact that they can be sitting like that. I feel like any other characters that kind of had it like that is probably like the detectives at SVU.
I was thinking of them, Stabler and
and
oh my
and
God.
Benson.
Benson, yeah.
Yeah.
Stabler and Benson.
I feel like they have that kind of chemistry too.
Yes, they do. They do, and people can't understand like how come they're not. It's because they love each other, but not like that.
Yeah.
Like, I get it,
Yeah.
and it's just this mutual love. That's it. It's a love that people develop for each other, for their detectives and stuff like that as partners, because you have to trust each other with your life.
Yeah.
You know?
Even at any level of partnership, you wanna have a good time. Like, think of your coworkers. You wanna have a good time with your coworkers, where you're just like,
But
okay,
you want to be valued by them too.
Yeah.
You want to be seen as an equal.
Yeah.
And you want to be treated that way. And I think that this is actually like a really great, man, it should be used as like a this is how you should treat each other at work example. Like, watch X-Files.
Go watch X.
Go watch X-Files and see the way that Mulder and Scully treat each other with regard and respect. They're not condescending to each other. And if they are, it's because they're being little brats with each other. And then they
actually
assert their boundaries, and then they
yes, they do assert their boundaries. They like have like their own, I don't know, they have their very own language in the way that they like.
But that's because they establish a genuine connection with each other. That's why they're able to have their own language, able to pick up on nuances of, oh, you're not bringing it to as much today here in this area. I can do it. Like, it's a very healthy
balance.
Yeah. And that plays a big role in their staying power.
Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why we really like this type of storyline. But like regarding the supernatural, I think like we've talked about how good of a sci-fi example is just because of how heavy it leans into like science for stuff. Like, she's a doctor. She like investigates things with like in all the episodes she's like, I'm a doctor. Like, for some reason she has to like investigate something or like do an autopsy on someone. Like,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
like she like her being a doctor comes in handy like in a lot, because she comes and like thinks like these scientifically through these fantastical cases.
Yeah.
And the way that they write the episodes, like especially those like episodes that are outside the main storyline, I feel like that those other episodes that explore other supernatural events or like weird spooky cases,
That they handle that even that in a
yeah,
grounded way.
like she brings it, like she's like, okay, let's study this, let's see what this is about. Like there's episodes where they talk about like Bigfoot and like the Fiji mermaid. There's one of those things. I think there at some point there's like a chupacabra episode somewhere. Like all these kind of like just like generally supernatural events, and they start kind of like analyzing them from like a scientific lens, and in some of the cases they're able to like not fully understand it but explain it, like, oh, this happened because this person seems to be having this kind of reaction and that's why he's able to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's an episode where Jack Black is in that episode, by the way. That's another thing that is really cool about rewatching the X-Files is like all the people
that
there's like Ryan Reynolds is in there, like
people that were just starting out that are now
like that, they're huge, and like now
Yeah.
you're like watching them like, oh, this guy and that girl, and like there's like a lot of characters that kind of like characters, I mean, yes, like characters that come out from like some of these episodes that turned out to be like huge movie stars.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, like when they investigate those shows, they investigate also like very like scientifically, and then at the same time, it allows for that, like the beginning of the like episode, it allows for that fantastical thinking to come to play.
Yeah.
So when you're like watching and you're like, what if there's actually a Loch Ness monster type of thing in this lake? You know?
They tell this, like, they play with magical realism in such a
yeah
way that you start to question.
You're like it's like the way that they play that like, and then like in comes like the actual investigation of the event, and then trying to like find the meaning behind it and like finding the truth behind it,
following the trail.
makes it so very interesting, because not all the time they can like kind of like, okay, this is a theory why this might be happening, but they don't really prove it.
Yeah.
So you can still debunk the idea that like there's actual ghosts or
Yeah.
things like that, you know?
Yeah. They never really fully. They kind of leave it.
Like,
open to-
how did this happen? It happened because something natural happened. There has to be a scientific meaning behind this.
they treat it with that like same reverence that you would treat any other experiment.
Yeah. And I think that that's very like interesting. Like in this one, Seth Green is in this episode.
Yeah.
He was like actually pretty big in the 90s for what I like. He was in Buffy and he was like in many other shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seemed to do really good in those like supernatural shows when he wasn't.
Well, I feel like during that time, supernatural things were
Big.
big.
Yeah.
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 Like now, there's actual aliens. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
like there's actual like it's actually happening. Like in this one, for example, they're talking in this episode specifically. They're talking about this kind of like Area 51 type of place, and they're testing all this military equipment. That's what kind of like they kind of like discover, you know. So it becomes less about like, is there aliens out there? Probably, but that's not what you should be fucking focusing on. You should be focusing on the fact that your government is lying you about aliens being out there, you know?
Yeah.
So it becomes that. And like now that the government has come out and like said there's aliens, you're like, what else? Like, what else have you been lying us with? Especially as like these systems trying to begin to kind of like dismantle, that you start like to see like behind the curtains a little bit, that you're just like, aliens, like Mulder already told me.
What that leads me to is like this theory that I've heard before, which is that they're actually trying to help us, and that's why. Because like this is why I like X-Files, because I feel like this is when you think about like the way that aliens are presented in media,
Yeah.
it seems very propaganda-ish, because it's very be afraid of them. They're here to take you. They're here to hurt you. They're here to harm you. I don't get that sense from the X-Files, even though there's like crazy stuff going on here and there. He doesn't treat it like,
Well, down the road, it starts to begin. It starts to. You start to kind of like understand that the whole purpose of the aliens being here and being like insidiously among us is because they're seeking colonization.
interesting.
Yeah. And like,
So it still falls under that, and that's the thing that I'm starting. Now that they've come out and said, yeah, okay, they exist, I'm like, what if they're trying to help us and you just don't want us to trust them?
I don't know. And then like that makes me think also, and this is I think what's very important for us sometimes, to just really allow that magical thinking and allow that like believe in the supernatural, because maybe we think that they're gonna come and like colonize us because that's all we know.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
like
all we know. All we know is colonization.
All we know is people coming to your land and like fucking stealing it and pretending that it was theirs all the time.
Whereas for me, I'm like, yeah, no. And
what if there's like beings out there that don't know that concept?
Yeah.
What if we
Or better yet, they've faced it, overcome it, and are like,
yeah, or maybe it's not even like in their like understanding, like they couldn't possibly like think that way, like
Yeah.
imagine how life would be, you know.
yeah.
And
And that gives you hope, man. If anything else,
I feel like if you allow yourself this magical supernatural thinking can lead you to those spaces of what if, like, the reality doesn't need to be like this. And I think that that's
that's
something
very
that,
empowering and liberating.
yeah, and I think that, like, especially among our communities, is very important for us to embrace supernatural storytelling and embrace supernatural ideas
Yeah.
and supernatural thinking, because it will lead us to places that we might have never thought about, like,
Yeah.
maybe a world that cannot be like a non-colonizing present.
Yeah.
Like, that like, what
It
does that
it
look
can,
like?
It can like push us toward a better way of being because we challenge and push back on
Yeah,
what we accept as like
reality.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna accept this reality. Like, is there something? Is the truth out there?
Is the truth out there? Can I get some of that truth, please?
So I, I think that's perhaps like one of the reasons why we want to like talk about like the supernatural in like this issue, is because we want to like explore those spaces of like what the supernatural look from a lens that is not what we've seen before, you know?
Yeah.
Like what we're used to, how it's presented, how it's always been. What do those narratives look like when we allow ourselves to think outside?
The colonial lens.
Yes,
Like basically, what does supernatural look like outside of the colonial lens?
Yeah.
Because the colonial lens, that's the thing that's always interested me, because I've always been like, interesting how Independence Day and all these movies are like, they're coming to take our land, and I'm just like, honey,
You've already done.
you've already done that. Why are you worried about the aliens? They don't even know. They don't even know you. You don't even go to the same school as them. They don't know you. Like, I've always wondered that, because I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I more like to think, no, let's push back on that and challenge that. This is a very, very big universe.
Yeah, like,
I refuse to believe that colonialism is a disease that is like expanded to the entire.
yeah, like maybe there are worlds where that doesn't happen, where that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that's we need that kind of like thinking. We need that kind of like.
And like, what would that look like? Like, if you don't even like uncork that, how are we gonna get there? You know, like, if you don't uncork that idea of like, there's worlds where colonialism doesn't exist.
Yeah, and if we don't look at it, like, yeah, if we don't like examine it, is it really there?
Yeah.
That's like, I'm getting really nerdy, but that's like it's Schrodinger's cat. It's like a thing. It's like a scientific thing. No, I'm serious. Like, it's a thing where it's like, if you don't look at it, it's an experiment that he did where he's like, my cat is in the box, but
Is it in the box?
is it in the box if I don't open the box? If I don't open the box and the cat's in there, is it in there? And that's where I'm talking. That's how I like to think of like this whole alien thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you say that this is what I'm gonna get with aliens, with supernatural. You say bad. You say they're gonna take over. You say this, but is that really what's there? Can I look at it?
Can I imagine como el Chicharito, like, que imaginamos cosas chingonas? Let's imagine cool shit.
Yeah, like,
What if actually
Yeah,
this
because-
reality could be true?
exactly. And what if everyone starts to believe in that reality?
I want to believe.
I want to believe.
Anyways, I think that that's kind of like what we wanted to talk about, why we like this show so much, is because it's a smart show, it's an endearing show, it's a fun show, it's a very campy show. I think that that's one of the things that like also like I love about this show, is that super super campy. Like, of course some of the episodes are more like in line with like the main storyline, are more serious about like, but they have all these like one-off episodes that are super campy, uh, characters that are all over the place, that are very interesting and very very like quirky. I think that they have that too. Um, of the balance that like these like characters play with each other, how
Yeah.
like amazingly they they show us a way to see the like gender dynamics in a very like interesting way, I think.
It's a very subtle way
Yeah.
because it's like a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's-
not on your face, it's not trying to force you.
Yeah. Those who know.
Yeah. Which is it would like growing up watching this was like definitely very refreshing. Uh to see like a female character portray in a more
Balanced,
yes like
grounded,
yeah
and like, yeah.
and like at the same time see like a male character be more like this effervescent energy,
Yeah.
you know, like
this, like,
it makes him it makes him very
she didn't
balanced.
play into, like, they didn't have the character play into any cliches.
Yeah.
She was just like there to be treated as a character,
Uh-huh.
not as a character who's a woman, and the being the woman is like
The
one of the leading-
nagging.
yeah, because like I find that a lot of the female characters or women characters are like, one of the leading qualities is she's a woman, so she's gonna act like
So
a
she
woman.
has to be either a Wi-Fi or a mommy, and she doesn't play any of this. She's a fucking partner, and I'm gonna be your partner, and you like we're gonna be fucking equals. And I think that that's very refreshing, and also like from the side of like the more of the male character is allowed to have that irrationality and like that like a space to where like, you know, like not have to be the manly force, you know, like
Yeah,
and that brings a lot of balance to like
they're not stereotypical like characters for their like the time that they're in, and the fact that it's a like she's not a stereotypical female investigator or like a female character, and he's not a stereotypical male character. Like gender is kind of
blurred.
yeah, it is.
It's very blurred.
It is. It really is, and I like that.
Yeah.
I really do. I feel like it removing that aspect allows them to feed off of each other in a more like
And allows the viewer to just focus on the fucking story and not
Yes.
just like
which I find like ironically a lot of science is like that too. It's like wanting to investigate and continue and like kind of wanting to do away with the distracting things like elements.
yeah, and just like tell a good story. I think that
Yeah.
that's the I think that it makes it very I don't know. I grew up watching this show. It made me very interested in like science, and it made me very interesting in like just magical thinking. I think that like for me was more of like going into that like very like anarchist way of thinking
Yes.
of like the government is lying to us.
The government is lying to you. Like
And like for example, my sister watching it, she's like, I have to be in the fucking FBI. You know,
I
like,
have to be there so I can
yeah,
see all
I
these
have
things.
to like I have to be someone like that was like my sister's dream. And actually there was like culturally a shift that happened when these shows started airing. It's actually called the Scully effect, because
I've
a
heard
lot
of
of
that.
women, a lot of young
I've heard of that.
yeah, a lot of young people started going for careers in the like medical field because Dana Scully was a badass doctor.
Yeah, I've actually heard that, and it's used to this day as an example of why like representation is so important. Because watching her, and here we go again, like with the their intention may have been problematic, but they got to the right place.
Yes.
With the wrong directions, but they got there anyway, and it was to inspire women to be like that.
I don't think that like they were expecting like
No, they
for
weren't. They
that-
weren't.
for,
That's why I said
for there to be that shift.
they got to the right place with the wrong directions. they better they should be thankful, I guess, that they had the driver as
Yeah, I really do think, and I think it has to be commendable that probably Gillian Anderson had
that's what I'm
also
saying.
a lot to do with it.
Gillian Anderson was a big like driving force behind that.
Yeah, it had to be. It had to be because like now like that we've seen her where she got with her career, you can tell that she wasn't gonna be somebody not giving notes. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So she was definitely like, this is like a character, not a caricature.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and like kudos for that, like whoever was writing this character for actually like
Listening to
letting it go there, like letting that character go there. And
I mean, the Scully effect. That's all. Like that's what I'm saying. This is such an iconic show because it made in its non-binary qualities, it actually reached a lot more people and inspired them in like real, like tangible ways.
yeah,
Which is why I think it's so important to like.
yeah, it becomes like that disruptive factor that like now we're seeing in like other areas. Like you see it like now. I think there was like this a study that like guys are not picking up guitars as much anymore, but the people that are picking up like electric guitars more are women. So like now, what is that dynamic? What is that art is gonna look like? You know, what is that music gonna look like? So I think it's very important to like commend those kind of characters that like allowed for those shifts to happen.
Yeah, that inspire the shift to happen. That let people know this is possible. This is a thing. Like it's okay to like explore it. So
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah, I'm so like excited to see Supernatural like be explored.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, this is like a white show, you know, like painfully
not
white.
just white but white.
Yeah, like it's
They filmed
like
it in Canada.
like
Not to say that all Canada is, I mean, the indigenous land.
but like there's like I think she's like from Connecticut or something like that. And then Mulder is from Boston, so like
It's set in like
it's set in Virginia, of course.
yeah.
Like so, but it's like a lot of the characters are like the main characters for sure are like white, and like very few instances, you see diversity beyond that.
yeah.
Like, there's storylines where like you see like, oh, this character was a black character, oh, this character was like
But the
Native
leading-
American
But the
character.
leading characters are
They
white.
do bring up like, and I would like more of like a Native American person to give their take on this one, because the Native American, the Navajo people play a big role in the bigger storyline of this show. So I would like to see how they portray it, because it's very interesting. There's a whole like episode in where their Mulder was almost died, and they like picked him up, and they like they do rituals around him and whatnot. Like I would like to like somebody who knows like give their take on that part, but they do play a big role on the bigger storyline.
Yeah. So you'd like a take of like
It's
how it was handled? Or...
yeah, like if it's really like representing them in an
authentic
true,
way.
authentic, respectful way,
Or
or
it's
if
like
they're just like
making them novelty, you know?
yes, or making them just kind of like a way to elevate the white man, you know.
Like a story, what is it? A story device or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna. I cannot speak about that. I just know that it's there. You know, like it's part of the bigger storyline. It's a critical point of the storyline, actually. people, I don't know if I will spoil it for anyone.
I mean, we could just say at the beginning there will be spoilers, but I mean, we're talking about.
Like if you're not, if
X-Files.
you haven't watched it and you're watching it for the first time, kind of like fast forward through this. But like, and if you're really interested in watching it, but there's all the documents, or like all the documents that have information on aliens, like government documents, are coded, and they're coded by code writers from the World War II, which that's the way they were actually able to win World War II, is through using the Navajo language to
Wow.
create that code. And there's only a few people in the world that speak that can actually break that code. And because the language is not familiar to anyone in Europe or anyone in Asia, it was impossible to break. So, and like there's very, and it speaks in some of the episodes, it speaks about like how the oral history of the Navajo people is what's actually gonna like save us, because they're the only keepers of the truth. All this like
That's
mess,
interesting.
yeah, like all of this mess that the government is trying to create, the people who have like all that information is like this group of 20 people that, according to the Navajo tradition, like if I know something, I need to share with 20 people so that doesn't die with me, something like that.
That's interesting. That
Yeah,
their story is basically that like you're gonna find the answers to your problems by talking to the indigenous people.
yeah, it's very
That is
interesting.
so-
Like I think it's very interesting, but like I said, I want somebody else to like give that take.
Yeah.
I just like stating what happens.
Yeah.
So, I think it's very important part of the storyline, and it speaks volumes about like us going back to that kind of like knowledge to understand things deeper.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, ahí se los dejo de tarea. That's your homework. So I guess that's it for our episode,
Yes.
because it's pretty late. It's a school day. Anyways, we wanna thank everyone for joining. If you're watching this, sorry for like the whole back and forth. We're like figuring this out. We just wanted to capture this the more realistic way possible.
Yeah.
Because we want to kind of have these conversations with you people. So if there's anything that you guys want to like, if you watch this show, if you think about watching this show, if you like it as much as we do, if you hate it, like just kind of like let us know, put it in the comments, and
Yeah.
and let's discuss these ideas of exploring the world through like this like magical lens. Like why the fuck not?
Yeah. I think it's really cool, and hope it leaves me with hope. It really does. So
It does. It kind of like does, even though it's like it gets like it gets very weird. Like
that in itself gets very weird, but
yeah,
I feel like there's different ways to like explore it without. That's the thing that I'm like that I feel like is so connected with humanity, is the fear. Like humanity fears the unknown.
yeah,
So I'm just interested in going beyond looking at
yeah,
things through the lens of fear.
yeah,
But fear is natural. It's just that it
Yeah.
feels like it kind of taints like the exploration if you just focus too much on like
yeah.
that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why, like, yeah, be a little bit more like Scully and think that there has to be an explanation for it, and be curious about it, but also keep that magical thinking
Yeah.
of like what if,
Yeah.
like what really is out there, like the truth is out there,
The truth
and
is
I
out
want
there.
to believe.
I want to believe.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope that we didn't screw this over. Yes, we do How a recording. Anyways,
Yay!
thank you so much for watching, and we hope to bring a little bit more content like this. If you hate it, let us know. If you love it, let us know. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.